Okay, getting ready for round two of the Modern Showcase Challenge. So I kind of talked about the main deck a lot last time and the mana base, the sort of things that we needed to do to make the white splash back down to 1 Talaria West was one of the concessions of the mana base. No Gruul Turf, all Celestia, Sanctuary, Kabir Crossroads. The 2 Fenches with the 2 Temple Gardens, no Breeding Pool. So there's definitely mana bases concessions that you need to make Eladamri's Call and the White Splash work. But as far as the sideboard, what this is my attempt to counter the Grixis Death Shadow matchup. So I've just sort of found on most amulet lists, I just sort of can't win that matchup. It's just atrocious as far as like, I think I said at one point that I think Grixis Death Shadow versus Amulet right now is probably the worst matchup that Amulet has ever had in the history of any matchups. As far as current Amulet lists versus current Grixis Death Shadow lists. So I've taken basically a quite radical sideboard plan, which is sort of a transformational sideboard plan, where I'm cutting all the amulets. So amulets are not a good top deck in a top deck war. I'm cutting all the sagas, because if I'm cutting amulets, I have to cut saga. Saga also isn't particularly good against Alpine Moon. If they run that, it isn't particularly good against Dress Down, since they just sort of get to get rid of the tokens for free. And I'm cutting 2 Azuzas, since it seems like the matchup is less about ramping and more about surviving. So, and I'm bringing in all of these cards. So Cavern is just basically to make up for the land loss of Saga, bringing in 2 lands, so I'll be at a 30 land count. So essentially this sideboard plan against Grixis Death Shadow, the idea is you sort of morph into sort of a green-white control / big mana deck. So Prismatic Ending is really powerful as far as, like, if you get to hit a turn 1 DRC or Ragavan with it, it can actually really mess up Grixis Death Shadow's plan. They're not expecting against Amulet to lose that turn 1 play. There are situations where they might keep hands that are land light, believing that they have a Ragavan that they can sort of force through to get the mana. You know, if they have something like Ragavan plus Unholy Heat or Lightning Bolt or something. Probably Lightning Bolts aren't in post-sideboard or Fatal Push, but, you know, even just they think they've got their turn 1 Ragavan and they think there's a good chance it's going to connect. You take care of that Ragavan. They can be really tight on mana. You take care of the turn 1 DRC. You really mess up with their card selection, and when the deck loses its card selection, it actually starts to top deck quite badly. It can top deck a lot of lands and other things. And of course, Prismatic Ending is a very efficient answer for Death Shadow. So one of the easiest way to lose the game is Death Shadow, like killing you quickly, and an ending can buy a lot of time. Celestial Purge, similar concept, can, you know, kill Ragavan, can kill DRC, can kill Luris, can kill Death Shadow. It does it at instant speed, which can be very nice for things like a dashed Ragavan or like Death Shadow plus Dress Down. You can sort of get some sort of surprise element of the instant element of it. So not all that different from Prismatic Ending just being 1 more mana, but instant speed, so that if they try and play around sorcery interaction, we don't go too far in that direction. Rest in Peace is a really difficult thing for them to answer. It shuts down Drown in the Loch, other than on Summoner's Pact. It shuts down... so it shuts down Drown in the Loch except for a counterspell on Summoner's Pact. It shuts down Unholy Heat. It shuts down Kroxa. It shuts down Luris. It makes their DRCs 1/1s. There's just really a lot of the deck that Rest in Peace shuts down in a major way, and they really have no way of interacting with it whatsoever once it's on the field. They can interact with it on the stack or discard it out of your hand, but once it's on the field, it's sort of just nothing they can do. Endurance, obviously, and Bojuka Bog also graveyard hate. Endurance, I personally think, is better against something like Living End. I think Relic of Progenitus is a better graveyard hate than Endurance against Grixis Death Shadow, but I'm trying to respect that I'm not just building the sideboard completely for Grixis Death Shadow. All these sideboard cards have sort of other matchup applications, and so Endurance, while maybe not the strongest thing in the Grixis Death Shadow matchup, certainly very powerful, can, you know, flash in and eat a DRC, or a Ragavan can be a quick thing to search to, you know, stop an Unholy Heat from killing a Titan. You know, so definitely has its applications. Cavern of Souls, just extra land, more for the control matchups, but, you know, in this matchup, if we're cutting the Sagas to be able to cut the Amulet, we need to bring in a land. Engineered Explosives, I don't think needs any introduction. Elder Gargaroth, this is sort of a silly one. I'm not convinced that it's any good, necessarily. As far as the Grixis Death Shadow matchup, the best thing it's done for me so far is be Thought Seized out of my hand rather than another relevant spell. But that, you know, that should be a thing in favor of the card rather than against. But I haven't really got to see how well it does in play. My thought with Gargaroth is there's a lot of top deck situations where you can end up with a Pact or a Call and exactly 5 mana. And so I thought about some other things like Sigarda or Thragtusk or anything, but I'm just trying Gargaroth as sort of that need something in the 5 mana slot. Okay, no companion. I think I'm gonna keep this. No companion might be something. Oh, this is bad. Okay, so hopefully this is oops all spells and not Belcher. Either way, we're probably losing this game 1 because our hand is kind of slow. I was kind of hoping for something like Murktide when I kept this hand. The idea being that I could like map into Cavern of Souls, but as it is, we're probably just losing this game. So I guess I want Castle to max out on the sort of... I should be able to kill by searching Castle if I get to untap, but I'm likely not going to get to untap, so... So, probably dead here. We will be able to bring in Endurance. Rest in Peace. So, we'll have some things. So opponent does have a Belcher in their deck, which is good to know. Trying to see if there's anything else. Right now I'm just looking at their list. They've got a Memories Journey. So that probably means they have Thassa's Oracle as well. So they have a couple... They have a couple alternate win cons going, so that's good to know. Okay, so against this deck, we want the Rest in Peace. Don't think I want Force of Vigor. Want Endurance. Bajuka Bog is sorcery speed, so that seems not where we want to be. So I think I'm going to cut Colossus. I'm going to cut Nazuza. I'm going to cut a Cavern. Maybe try it like this. Yeah, I was keeping that first hand thinking no companion. I was thinking, okay, if the hand is against like blue-red Murktide or another counterspell type deck, then I could map into Cavern, cast the Dryad off the Cavern, maybe cast Titan off Cavern. Okay, so this hand will threaten Endurance by turn 3, which should be fast enough on the play for an Endurance. So I think... So the question is, I might not actually want Saga out on turn 1, because I want to be able to pay for a Pact for Endurance if I do Pact for Endurance. So I kind of need the Saga, and I don't think I'm going off turn 3 anyway. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Grazer, and I'm going to put out the Kabir at Crossroads, and then I will Saga on turn 2. That way, starting from turn 3, I always have Endurance available to me. Okay, not a bad draw. Is this Pentad Prism? Okay, well, Eladamri's Call is a good draw, because now we can call for Endurance rather than having to use a Pact. Maybe I was supposed to actually keep the Summoner's Pact, because if I get up to 6 mana, I can always Pact for Titan and win, and if I don't have 6 mana, I might need to Pact for the other Endurance. Okay, so let's look at their list. Anything new? Leyline of Sanctity. So they have Leyline of Sanctity to avoid the graveyard hate, though Leyline of Sanctity won't help them if we do end up getting a Rest in Peace. They have Memory's Journey, Theros' Oracle. I don't see... Oh, they still have one Charbelcher, at least. So yeah, so they're doing Leyline of Sanctity. They're not doing any interaction with us, though. Which is good to go. No, like no Force of Vigor or anything like that. So I think we sort of want to... Do we want Force of Vigors then? It can interact with their mana and it interacts with Leyline of Sanctity. I think seeing their list, I think I do want the Force of Vigors. So on the draw, I think I can cut another land. I think I can cut the Expedition map. Maybe that's 2 land light, 30 lands, and no map. But I think it'll be okay. And maybe an Azusa, because I don't think this is about necessarily just going as fast as possible. I think a lot of this is maybe Grazer. I like Azusa because it gives us the fastest sort of draw. So yeah, cut a Grazer, Azusa, we got our combo draws, and we have a way to interact with Leyline and their mana, and we have some pretty good hate here. And I think we can sort of mulligan somewhat aggressively towards either a combo hand or a hateful hand. So this hand has an Amulet and an Endurance. I guess I can't go to 5. I am afraid of them just having Leyline of Sanctity into a fast kill, but we do have turn 3 if we're not dead and we draw a bounce land. Really what we have is we have turn, whenever we draw a bounce land is when we're comboing off. And they do not have Leyline, which is very good for us. Rest in Peace, okay. So if we draw a white source, we probably just win. Force of Vigor is interesting. Force of Vigor gives us sort of protection against Charbelcher too. So yeah, I think I like our position here. Okay, Undercity Informer, sure. The Charbelcher is in their deck. So the question is, what card do I want to exile here? Because Grazer helps... Wait a second, they only have one Narcomoeba right now? Can we just get them with Force of Vigor? Okay, let's look at this. This Narcomoeba comes in. They get their first Sword of the Meek. We Force of Vigor this and this. They have one Narcomoeba. They hit us with the 2 Creeping Chills. We Force of Vigor the first Sword of the Meek and the Talisman. That leaves them with 2 Sword of the Meek. which means they can't they will have a memories journey, but the memories journey doesn't necessarily win them the game. I'm thinking I might want to let this go off and force a vigor. Because I can always also, if things go bad, I can always also endurance later. And if I draw a white source, man, if I just had map still in my deck, I could map for Celestia Sanctuary and then just rest in peace. I'm gonna let them draw and play this. Really love to draw a white source. They're able to get a Narcomoeba back in their deck. I thought maybe they had sided down to one Narcomoeba. Well, white source would be great. Okay. Hopefully we're not dead. White source or bounce land. That'll do. Ooh, that was a Interesting one. I don't know if I played that completely perfectly. So even if they had something to not die here, we would be able to play the rest in peace post combat. So we could attack, we could double strike, and at the end we'd have a Boros untapped since we could use the Simic plus, Simic for 2 mana plus the Vesuva on Boros to activate the Sun Home. So we'd have a Boros untapped, which we could use to play Rest in Peace. But what a game. What a match. Yeah. So maybe I should have mulliganed that hand game 1, but yeah. Force of Vigor was kind of nice there. I think it sort of forced them to do things, to spend their mana doing things that were not the things that they wanted to be doing. Yeah. All right. See everyone for the next round.